There are ghosts at the bottom of the Atlantic. 200 miles southeast of Cape Greenland, in water so cold it freezes the breath in your lungs, lies a graveyard of steel. But these aren't just sunken warships. Resting upright on the black ocean floor, slowly being eaten by salt and deep-sea rust, are massive 100-ton steam locomotives. They are the S160s. Built in the heat of 1942, they were America's arsenal of democracy on wheels. But for dozens of these engines, their journey to the battlefields of Europe ended before they ever turned a wheel on European soil. They were sent to the abyss by German U-boats, and there they remain. In the early 1940s, the Allies faced a logistical nightmare. If they were to reclaim Europe, they needed to move millions of tons of ammunition, coal, and troops. But the retreating German armies were systematically destroying every railway line and locomotive they left behind. The U.S. Army's response was a machine designed by Major J.W. Marsh. It was called the S160. It was a steam engine stripped down to its absolute bare essentials. It was built for speed of manufacturing, not longevity. No brass, no copper trim, no luxury. The soldiers gave it a nickname, the Gypsy Rose Lee locomotive, named after the famous burlesque dancer. Why? Because, like her, these engines were stripped of everything. But in the rush to build them, a fatal flaw was welded into the very boiler of the machine. The British railway crews who volunteered to run these American engines called them the Yanks. They were powerful, but they were dangerous. The S160 used a single, poorly designed water gauge that was entirely unfamiliar to the European crews. If a crew didn't open the valves in a highly specific, delicate sequence, the gauge would trap water inside it. To the firemen, the glass showed the boiler was full, but in reality, the firebox was running completely dry. When the water level dropped too low, the steel crown plate directly above the roaring coal fire would heat up to a white, hot glow. The metal would soften, and then, with absolutely zero warning, the stay bolts would snap. The boiler would explode. In a span of just 10 months on the British railways, 3 S160s suffered catastrophic boiler explosions. The blast from locomotive number 2403 blew the fireman clean off the footplate, killing him instantly. The engines built to save Europe were turning on their own crews. After the war, the world rebuilt. The US military had thousands of these war-weary engines left over. They were scattered to 4 corners of the earth: Italy, Greece, China, and South America. But 200 of them were shipped to the Soviet Union reclassified by the Soviets as the SHA class. These American-built engines were sent deep into the frozen wilderness of Siberia. When the Cold War froze relationships between East and West, these locomotives vanished behind a wall of secrecy. During the Korean War, S160s were used by both North and South Korean forces, literally fighting on opposite sides of the same war. When the steam era ended, the Soviet Union and North Korea quietly crossed them off the ledger. Hundreds of American-made steam engines were simply left to rot in closed military zones, stripped of their identity, their history completely scrubbed. Of the 2,120 engines built to win a global war, only a tiny handful survive today. The rest are gone, lost in Siberian scrapyards, buried in forgotten war reserves, or sitting in the quiet, pitch-black currents of the North Atlantic. The next time you hear the distant whistle of a train in the night, think of the S160, the engine that was built in secret, fought on 4 continents, and then quietly slipped into the shadows of history. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Sean L.H. If you want to uncover more forgotten lore, pull up a chair, subscribe, and join us for the next deep dive. Until next time.